Hey, this is Harman Mixes, and welcome to episode number 7 of my Fundamentals of Audio series. Today, we're going to be discussing the fundamentals of the band, okay? We're going to be talking about drum sets, guitars, cymbals, vocals, all of the things. If you are an audio expert, this video is not for you. This is an ultra beginner video for somebody who's just trying to learn how to mix audio. So we are going to be breaking down things in mega detail. Go ahead and skip along. I will be with you for a video in the future. But for those of you who this video is for, I hope that this is helpful to you. Let's get into it. All right, episode number 7, Introduction to the Band. Let me just tell you really quick, if you missed episode number 6, please ensure that you go back and watch it. There will be a description, a link in the description below for you so that you can get caught up and up to speed on the basics of an audio console. But today, we're going to be talking about the basic elements of the band. Now, I think this is an interesting topic because whenever I talk to new audio engineers, one of the things I realize is that most of the time they're in that role because they have to be. Not necessarily because they have a passion for it or they want to be, but because they have to be. Whether your church needs you to be in that seat or whether your band, you're just gigging and you need somebody to set up audio, this video is for you. Now, let's start by breaking down modern day music. Modern day music typically has guitars, keyboards, kind of effects synthesizers, bass, and drums. Now, let's start with the drums. The drum set is one of the most important sounds in modern music. If you go and you listen to any kind of music produced in the past 30, 40, 50 years, one of the most prominent sounds you're going to hear in the music is the vocal and the drums. People listen to lyrics and they like the beat. As audio engineers, we have to be cognizant of the fact that the drum set is one of the most important elements of the song. And it's important that we break down what actually goes into the drum set because there is actually multiple different instruments combined into one singular piece. Now, for those of you who love hip hop, you're going to find this to be a little bit abstract because a lot of the sounds that you hear in hip hop music are actually translatable to the things I'm about to play for you and discuss. However, they're sampled or they sound in a way that sounds foreign to the sounds that I'm going to play for you. So you may feel like, well, Austin, that's not a snare, that's not a tom, whatever. In reality, it actually is. It's just sounds a little bit different. Okay, let's break down the drum set. The first most important sound in the drum set is the kick, or kick drum is the technical name for it. The kick is the boom. I'm going to play this for you. This is just a sample of a kick that I've recorded. Now, the kick is so important because it's the foundation of the entire audio mix. Without the kick, you miss the beat. You can't feel where the music is, where it's going. It feels like something is missing because you can't keep time with how fast or how slow the music is going. If you hear a song on the radio and it's going boom, 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 you can nod your head along with it because you understand that when that kick hits on the 1 and then it hits on the 2 again, you can understand how fast the song is going. And if the kick is going really fast, you understand that the song is fast. If the kick is going slow, you can understand that the song is slow. All of these things are innate to humans. When we hear music, we just feel that. You don't need to be educated in song to really understand that when you feel the beat, there's an emotion that's attached to it. The kick is so very important. Second to the kick is the snare. Now, I am very partial to the way that the snare drum sounds, and anybody who knows me will send me memes of something to the effect of that snare because I get very passionate to the way that the snare drum sounds. And the reason for that is that the snare is a quintessential element of so many various kinds of music. I particularly enjoy rock and roll because I love to rock. And the snare is so important to that genre of music. I'm going to play for you what a snare sounds like right now. Now, I recorded that snare drum from a live stage mix, so there's a little bit of bleed from other drums in that sound, but in the end, that is a snare drum. And when you put kick and snare together, here's how it sounds. Now, next in the drum set, you have the toms. Now, toms are a very interesting instrument because unlike the kick and unlike the snare, the variation in the way that toms sound is pretty wide. You may have toms that sound very thin, and it's all about the attack that you get in kind of heavy metal music, or you may have really thick, deep, big toms in a ballad or a slow song. I'm going to play for you a couple of toms that I've recorded as a part of a live recording so you can understand what those sound like. Next, let's talk about cymbals. Cymbals are both incredibly important and also incredibly frustrating to audio engineers. Why? Put it honestly, cymbals are bloody loud. And if you're mixing live, not in the studio, cymbals can be very challenging to deal with because it doesn't really matter what you do as an audio engineer. Cymbals are just loud. And you can either turn up the music to overcome cymbals, you can put all kinds of different treatment around the drum set to try and deal with the cymbal bleed. There's all kinds of different levers that you can pull on that front, but the point is that cymbals are loud. But they're also very important to the song. And so often as audio engineers, we are tempted to try to avoid miking cymbals, putting them in the mix, or even thinking about cymbals because cymbals are already loud and frustrating. But as any drummer will tell you, a cymbal is almost as important as the kick and the snare itself because it allows the drummer to bring accents to the music. It allows them to bring swells. It allows them to add character because just like toms, every cymbal sounds different. Now, in a drum set, I'm going to throw a graphic up here on screen so you can follow along with me. It's common to have what we call the hi-hat, which will be two cymbals that are together on a mechanism that allow the two cymbals to open and close. And depending upon how that cymbal is open and closed, it can make a sound. If it's closed, if the drummer plays it, it makes a specific sound. If it's open, it makes a different sound. Then we have crash cymbals, which can come in various sizes, typically distributed around the drum set as a whole. And then we have what's called the ride cymbal, which is a relatively heavy cymbal that is very important for things like jazz music, worship music, etc. You will find that many of the beats that you're probably familiar with have a ride cymbal groove attached to it. And then in some cases, you have things like chinas and specialty cymbals to make very specific kinds of sounds. In the end, cymbals are very important. I'm going to play to you a recording of some overheads, which are just two mics over a drum set. So you're going to hear all of the drums plus all of the cymbals, with the cymbals being out front. Sounds pretty interesting, doesn't it? Now, when you throw all of that together, this is what you get. Next, let's move on to the bass guitar. The bass, just like the drums, is easily the most important thing on stage besides the vocal. In fact, as an audio engineer, one of your goals is to get the bass and the kick to be as tight together as possible. Because if not, the music will sound disjointed. Now, bass is a very dynamic instrument, i.e. it can get very loud or very soft. Tonally speaking, it also can go very high on the frequency spectrum or very low on the frequency spectrum. Although it's called bass, many skilled bass players actually play all over the map as far as the tonality of the instrument. and therefore you can get very, very unique and interesting sounds out of the bass guitar. Now the bass is typically a 5 or 6 string instrument. In some cases you have a 4 string bass. It's relatively rare to have a 6 string bass, but most of the time you have a 4 or 5 string bass that is connected to the system via what we call a 1/4 inch cable, just a standard 1/4 inch. I'll put one up on the screen here. And that is typically run through what we call a direct box or a direct in. That translates a 1/4 inch cable to a standard XLR cable. Here's what a bass sounds like. Next, let's move on to my favorite instrument on stage, and that is the guitar. Yeah, guitars are so interesting because there's so many different kinds of guitars. The way that they can sound beautiful, they can sound grungy, there can be solos attached, there could be all kinds of different ways that guitars can make music. I actually have behind me what we call an acoustic guitar, which is a guitar that makes its own sound without any requirement for additional amplification. And it sounds very specific and very nice. Here's how an acoustic guitar sounds. Then we have the electric guitar. Now, typically in a band, you would have drums, guitar, keys, and bass. Okay? Sometimes you have 2 guitars, and typically one of those 2 guitars is going to be an electric guitar. Here is one of my favorite musicians playing just the absolute snot out of an electric guitar in the context of a mix so you can really hear how it sounds. Now, if that doesn't energize you, I'm going to need you to get a little bit more coffee because I love electric. It sounds awesome. Such a cool instrument. Now, finally, let's talk about the keyboard, the keys. Now, keys are synonymous with piano. Most often, the piano is on stage. It's played raw, right? You have a grand piano. I'm sure you're familiar with the way that a piano sounds. But in case you're not, this is how a piano sounds. Now, also in modern day, a lot of times piano sounds are actually played through what we call a modeling software. And you can actually take the same keyboard that makes piano sounds and translate it into synthesized sounds. This was made very common in the 1980s via instruments called synthesizers, and subsequently well into the 2000s and beyond, most of our modern music is made electronically through these synthesized sounds played on a keyboard. Here's how some of those sound. Now, when we put all of these things together, we get a band. Now, I'm going to ignore vocals for now because we all know what a singer sounds like. But when we put all of these elements together, I really want you to hear how the band comes together and how awesome it can sound. If this doesn't get you excited to be an audio engineer, maybe this is not for you. or maybe you just need to listen to a little bit more music. But this has been the Fundamentals of Audio introduction to the band. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have a question, leave me a question down in the comments. I would love to answer you, and I love discussing things in the comments. So please leave me a comment, send me a like. God bless you. I'll see you next time.